What happens when two of late-night television's biggest personalities clash in front of a live studio audience here and one refuses to back down from what becomes one of the most uncomfortable interviews ever broadcast? That's exactly what played out between Conan O'Brien and Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live, a moment that quickly transformed into late-night legend, though not for the reasons anyone expected. It all began when Conan O'Brien walked onto the set with his trademark confidence, his signature red hair perfectly styled and a sharp navy suit that exuded quiet authority. The audience roared with applause. He looked every bit the veteran entertainer, clearly at ease. Jimmy Kimmel, seated behind his desk, welcomed him with his usual smile. But to anyone paying close attention, there was something slightly off about that smile, just a bit too rehearsed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Conan O'Brien," Jimmy announced with practiced enthusiasm. Conan crossed the stage with long, easy strides, waving to the crowd before taking his seat. "Thanks for having me," he said with a playful glint. "Though I've got to say, your green room coffee tastes like it was brewed in a gym sock that's been in a locker for 3 months." The crowd laughed. Jimmy chuckled. Classic Conan, quirky, a little mean, but ultimately charming. Everything seemed normal, until Jimmy replied, "Well, we spend our budget on more important things, like, making sure our show actually gets renewed every year." There was a moment, a blink where Conan's face changed. Subtly, but unmistakably. The audience didn't notice, still laughing. But something had shifted. Renewal anxiety," Conan replied, his voice light but layered. "I remember those days. I also remember when Network XX used to return my calls. Funny how things change." Jimmy leaned back slightly, his fingers tapping the desk just a little too fast. "Some of us adapt better to change. Some of us stay relevant. Others, a broken bar, retreat to podcasting." That landed with a thud. "Retreating?" Conan echoed, tasting the word. "I prefer choosing a medium where I can actually say what I want without some network suit telling me I can't make fun of their advertisers." Jimmy's smile tightened. "Must be nice to have that luxury. Some of us have real responsibilities to employees, ratings, stakes." Now the audience was picking up on the tension. The laughter had turned nervous. "Real stakes?" Conan leaned forward. "Like spending years cozying up to executives while others took actual risks with their comedy?" Jimmy's expression turned cold. "You mean like being handed The Tonight Show and losing it in 7 months?" The audience fell silent. The words hung in the air like smoke. "Handed to me," Conan said quietly, voice sharp. "I earned that job over 15 years of writing and performing, not by riding Adam Carolla's coattails into a talk show gig." Jimmy flushed, the heat rising in his face. "At least I didn't flame out so badly I became a cautionary tale." It was no longer banter, it was personal and escalating. "You want to talk about abilities?" Conan said, straightening up. "Let's talk about who actually writes their own jokes, and who has an army of writers crafting every spontaneous moment." "Everyone has writers," Jimmy snapped. "Difference is, some of us know how to work with theme without alienating everyone." "Oh, that's rich," Conan fired back. "From the guy whose own staff has gone on record calling him a nightmare to work with when the cameras are off." The studio was frozen. Jimmy stood. His chair scraped across the floor. "I think we're done here." But Conan stayed seated. "We're just getting started." "What exactly are you implying?" Jimmy asked, now clearly rattled. "I'm saying it outright," Conan said, rising to his full height. "You built a career pretending to be the nice guy, the relatable everyman. But everyone in the industry knows what you're really like." Camera operators kept trolling, sensing something unprecedented was unfolding. "You want specifics?" Conan continued. "Let's talk about how you treat your writers, how they've quit after being screamed at in front of the staff, how your best writers left for Colbert." Jimmy tried to interrupt. "That's out of line." "No, Conan pressed. What's out of line is your ego, your fear of being outshone. You've spent years bad-mouthing other hosts while smiling to their faces. Jimmy slammed his hand on the desk. Enough. You come on my show and attack me? Your show? Conan laughed bitterly. This isn't your show. It's a set owned by a network that could replace you tomorrow. At least I still have a show, Jimmy retorted. At least people under 30 know who I am now without having to Google me. For a moment, Conan looked genuinely hurt. Then, his voice turned ice cold. You're right about one thing, I'm not chasing social media trends to feel relevant. I'm not begging for approval from execs. I just do what I do. Without permission. Must be nice, Jimmy sneered. To fail upward into a medium with no accountability. Fail upward? Conan's laugh was sharp. I've never had to sell out to stay relevant. I've built something real, with integrity. Jimmy lost it. Integrity? You turned your Tonight Show exit into a pity parade? I was pushed out, Conan said, voice rising. I kept my dignity. Unlike you who tries to tear down everyone who threatens you. The argument had completely collapsed into raw hostility. You couldn't adapt, Jimmy barked. The audience moved on. That's the truth. You wouldn't recognize truth if it slapped you in the face, Conan snapped. Jimmy came around the desk now, face to face with Conan. I'm still here, still hosting, still matter. Conan stared him down. And I'm still funny, without the need for validation from advertisers and execs. Jimmy's voice dropped to a growl. Your podcast only exists because no network would touch you. I chose it, Conan shot back. Because I don't need approval to be good at what I do. You're hostile, aggressive, Jimmy muttered, almost to himself. Security. The word stunned the studio. Security? Conan repeated, disbelief on his face. You're calling security on your guest? Two men in suits appeared at the stage's edge. Jimmy motioned toward Conan. Please escort Mr. O'Brien from the studio. Conan looked at them, then back at Jimmy. A flicker of pity crossed his face. You started this. Now that you're losing, you want to hide behind security? I have a responsibility, Jimmy mumbled. No, Jimmy, Conan said, his voice steady. You have an ego, that's it. He turned to leave but paused at the edge of the stage. This is already out there, Jimmy. Millions just saw the real you. And with that, he walked off stage. Jimmy stood alone, staring after him. The audience was stone silent. Nothing could salvage what had just happened, not a commercial break, not clever editing. What they'd witnessed would follow both men for years. Finally, Jimmy turned to the camera. We'll be right back. But everyone knew they wouldn't be. Not really. Some things can't be undone.